And that's all the sport for now, but don't forget you can follow live updates of England versus India and the Tour de France on the BBC Sports website and app, along with all of the other latest sports news. That's all for me from now, but I'll be back throughout the day with more sports still to come.
This is BBC News. I'm Lewis Vaughan-Jones. Now, a handful of patients in the UK after trial what medics are calling a groundbreaking drug for type 1 diabetes. The drug, which is already approved in the US, is said to delay the need for insulin by up to 3 years.
E-bikes have come a long way, and there really is.
Right, let's go live to Paris. We've been keeping across the Bastille Day celebrations there in France, and you can see Emmanuel Macron there just with his
Arts in motion in partnership with Rolex.
So for the last couple of hours, they've been witnessing military
by
parades.
By default, it's always emotional. It shouldn't be intellectual.
Bands, a fly
Not
past.
the same first opera as
They do this every year,
first opera
14th
for
of July,
everybody.
marking the overthrow of the monarchy, the French Revolution, and the birth really of the modern day French nation.
It's not one
state.
audience.
This year, though, particularly pertinent,
There's
seeing the
a lot
military
of different
hardware
people
and the
in
soldiers
the audience
parading
every
through the
night,
streets
and
there in the heart of
our
Paris,
goal
because it comes as
is to
Emmanuel
get into
Macron.
dialogue.
Emmanuel Macron has
Their
launched,
experience,
making out
which is
billions more
an
in
individual
military
experience and a
spending
collective
in France
experience
as many other
at the same
European
time.
countries. Thanks more to come. This is
The fact
BBC News.
that you like something and I don't, if you are actually able to talk about it, that's where the dialogue about the art starts.
Hello. For most parts of the UK, Sunday was the
Join me next week for discovering the world's table. Watch on iPlayer.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Israel blames what it calls a technical error for an airstrike in Gaza that killed 10 people, including 6 children. EU trade ministers are in Brussels. How will they respond to President Trump's threat of 30% tariffs?
There is a feeling here that if those tariffs come into effect, the EU will have no choice but to retaliate with countermeasures of its own.
A report into BBC MasterChef says 45 out of the 83 allegations made against the presenter Greg Wallace were found to have been substantiated. And scientists say they have evidence that 2 black holes came together and merged 10 billion light years from Earth. Hello, I'm Lucy Hockings. Welcome to BBC News Now. The death toll in Gaza has now passed 58,000, according to the health ministry there. Among the latest deaths, 10 people, including 6 children, who were killed while waiting to fill water containers in central Gaza. Lorenzo Codogno, very good to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be following the story throughout the day as those ministers meet in Brussels as well. You can also go to the BBC News website to get the latest on all our top stories, including a look from Justin Rowland, our climate editor, as we've been talking about this new normal, what's happening with the weather at the moment around the UK. Do stay with us. This is BBC News.
The news never sleeps.
The fight for truth is on.
Welcome back. President Trump says he will send various pieces of what he's calling very sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine after days of devastating Russian strikes on cities across the country. And you can see Panorama's undercover estate agent on the BBC iPlayer and at 8 o'clock tonight on BBC One, except in Northern Ireland, where it will be shown at 10:40 p.m. Do stay with us here on BBC News. Plenty more to come.
Hello. We had some reports of flooding in the UK. Sunday was the last day of the heat wave.
Find out what sparks their creativity.
Influential with me, Catty Kay.
Inspiring
Watch on BBC
on the BBC.
iPlayer.
This is BBC News, the headlines. Israel blames what it calls a technical error for an airstrike in Gaza that killed 10 people, including 6 children, who were queuing for water. The BBC has been found breaching its editorial guidelines on accuracy, according to a new report into the now withdrawn Gaza documentary, whose narrator was later discovered to be the son of a Hamas official. President Trump says he will send what he calls various pieces of very sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine after days of devastating Russian strikes across the country. The row over sharing water resources between Mexico and the US in the state of Texas continues to escalate, with President Trump threatening sanctions on Mexico. And scientists say they have evidence that 2 black holes came together and merged 10 billion light years from Earth. Hello, I'm Lucy Hockings. Let's bring you more now from Ukraine. We've just been hearing from President Zelensky, who says he's had a productive conversation with visiting US presidential envoy Keith Kellogg. We discussed the path to peace, he says, and what we can practically do together to bring it closer. This includes, he says, strengthening Ukraine's air defence, joint production and procurement of defence weapons in collaboration with Europe. Guy, it's very interesting to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. A family court in Leeds has ruled that a baby allegedly trafficked to the UK from Nigeria will now be adopted here. The court has been hearing the case of a newborn girl who was brought unlawfully to Britain last summer by a woman who falsely claimed to be her mother. Let's update you on another line we've been getting from Kyiv. We've been watching very closely President Zelensky, who has been meeting today with Keith Kellogg. He's the US presidential envoy, just saying they had a very productive conversation discussing the way towards peace and what the US and Ukraine can practically do together to bring it closer. A story we'll bring you more on throughout the day here on BBC News.
Hello. For most parts of the UK, Sunday was the last day of the heat wave. Temperatures in the Highlands of Scotland reached 31.2 degrees Celsius.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Israel blames what it calls a technical error for an airstrike in Gaza that killed 10 people, including 6 children, who were queuing for water. EU trade ministers are in Brussels. How will they respond to President Trump's threat of a 30% tariff?
There is a feeling here that if those tariffs come into effect, the EU will have no choice but to retaliate with countermeasures upheld.
President Trump says he will send what he calls various pieces of very sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine after days of devastating Russian strikes across the country.
I'm pleased that there has been an acknowledgement about what a catastrophic failure this has been.
Well, that's what the latest findings
Hello,
mean
I'm Lucy
for the
Hockings.
BBC.
Welcome to
Also
BBC
on
News
the
now. The death toll in Gaza has now passed 58,000, according to the health ministry there. And among the latest deaths, 10 people, including 6 children, who were killed while waiting to fill water containers in central Gaza. Israel has blamed what it's called a technical error for the strike, which it says caused its munition to fall dozens of metres from its intended target. We should warn you, we're about to show graphic images filmed in the aftermath.
And coming up on BBC News,
BBC has verified these pictures. They show dozens of people rushing to help the injured, including children who are lying on the ground at the collection point. Eyewitnesses said a drone fired a missile at a crowd queuing with empty containers at a water tanker in the al-Nusrat refugee camp. The Israeli military said it was targeting what it described as an Islamic Jihad terrorist and said it regretted any harm to uninvolved civilians. And the incident is now under review. Our correspondent in Jerusalem is Yolande Now, who told me there's a lot of focus being given to this particular incident.
The corporation
is amid critical water shortages in Gaza, of course, and it has become...
Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
The BBC was always on in the Mashiri house and
the Israeli military has blamed a technical error for an airstrike on a water collection point in Gaza where 10 people were killed, including 6 children. Eyewitnesses said a drone fired
the UK is breaking records for both heat and rainfall more frequently, leaving the country with a notably different climate even a few decades ago. It's according to a new Met Office report, which found that 2024 was the fourth hottest year since records began 140 years ago.
Strikes
Here's our climate editor, Justin
over the weekend and continuing today as well.
We need
but
to
this
brace
strike
ourselves
took place
for more
a day
heat waves
ago in the Nusrat camp in central Gaza, and that's where a number of children were among those queuing
according
up
to this latest
water,
assessment
and this
of how global warming is reshaping the country's climate.
It's really grim footage. It shows the aftermath with injured and dead children being carried away, as well as some adults. The Israeli military has said that this was a technical error that led to the missile hitting there. It said it was targeting an Islamic Jihad operative who was in that area. Now, the Hamas-run health ministry, its latest figures, it's saying now that more than 58,000 Palestinians have been killed in 21 months of war. And we've got no sign yet of any breakthrough in the indirect talks that have been going on between Hamas and Israel on a new Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal. But we did have President Trump saying yesterday that he thought Gaza could be straightened out.
Inevitably, the UK's changing.
Yolande in Jerusalem, thank you. The time is 16 minutes past 1. Our top story this afternoon. The BBC apologises for failing to meet its own standards in a documentary about children in Gaza. The amount of liquids airline passengers can take on board as hand luggage has increased at 2 UK airports, leaving a confusing picture for travellers.
Coming up on BBC News, it's been a dramatic morning in the third test at Lord's as England look to go 2-1 up in the series against India.
The Prime Minister is set to meet with Donald Trump when he makes a private visit to his golf course in Scotland next month. It's the first of 2 visits to the UK.
A long-running dispute between Mexico and the US state of Texas over water is threatening to turn ugly. The two neighbours are bound by an 81-year-old water-sharing treaty, under which Mexico sends Texas some 170,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water from the Rio Grande every year.
Debbie Tubby, BBC News.
And congratulations to Paul, just amazing. Do stay with us here on BBC News.
Hello. The heat wave that's been gripping parts
on BBC News.
This is BBC News. The headlines. Israel blames what it calls a technical error for an airstrike in Gaza that killed 10 people, including 6 children.
Making for a good
President
watch.
Trump
Joe
says he will
Thank
send
you.
what he calls various pieces of very sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine after days of devastating Russian strikes across the country.
BBC apologises
EU ministers are in Brussels right now discussing how to respond to a looming trade war with the US. And a report into the BBC programme MasterChef says 45 out of the 83 allegations made against presenter Greg Wallace were found to have been substantiated.
It's what everyone's talking about. We'll have a full forecast in the next
Hello, I'm
half
Lucy
hour.
Hockings. Good to have you with us.
At the weather.
Let's return to one of our top stories this hour. President Zelensky has confirmed, and we've seen pictures of her meeting with the US Special Envoy Keith Kellogg. On X, Zelensky said that the two had a productive conversation, saying they discussed the path to peace.
You can see Panorama's Undercover Estate Agent tonight on BBC One and the iPlayer at 8 o'clock. We will be back with you from Salford soon, but now on BBC One, time to join our colleagues with the news where you are.
Hello and welcome to Sports Day. I'm Matt Graveling. England are off to a flyer on the final day of the third test against India. Early wickets taking them close to a 2-1 lead in the series. And champions of the world, Chelsea have won the Club World Cup, beating Champions League winners Paris Saint-Germain 3-0 in America. And the dream is over for Wales as they're hit for 6 by England and go out of the Women's Euros. But let's start with cricket, shall we? And at a sold-out Lords where England are now just 2 wickets away from beating India on the final day of the third test. Now,
Stay with us around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News.
We are very happy, especially against PSG. That, as I said 2 days.
Welcome back. You're watching BBC News. A family court in Leeds has ruled that a baby allegedly trafficked to the UK from Nigeria will now be adopted here.
That's going to be an incredible
An
match, isn't it, there in
investigation
the
by
Southern
BBC Panorama
Hemisphere. Right now,
into
you can
two
keep
of the
across
UK's
that and
leading
all of the
estate
day's
agencies
sport
has
on
revealed
the
evidence
BBC
of
Sport
potential
website
buyers
and
being
app,
unfairly
including
favoured
live
over
text
others
commentary
at one,
as England
and
take on
customers,
India
including
at Lords,
first-time
and a
buyers, being
reminder
left
that
out
they're
of
just
pocket
coming back
every
out from
other.
lunch, but England
Both companies say
need
they
just
always
2
put their
wickets
customers first.
to seal a
Adina
third
Campbell
test
reports.
victory against India and go 2-1 up in the series.
we
You can
loved
also
it.
keep across
It
to
was
stage
like,
10
this is perfect.
of the Tour de France, which is
So we
well
got in
underway, the
contact
first
with
mountain
Purple Bricks
stage
and we asked
of
for a
that
viewing
tour,
on
of
it.
course. And
First-time
you can
buyers
hear
Ryan Evans
what
and
Chelsea
Olivia
players Rhys
Phelps
James
put in
and
an
Cole
offer
Palmer
on this
thought
two-bedroom
about
house
sharing
in
a trophy
Nottinghamshire
lift with
through
the US
online
President,
estate
Donald Trump.
agency Purple Bricks.
Good boy. There you go.
From the moment their offer was accepted last summer, they say Purple Bricks started trying to sell them add-on services.
Director General of the BBC has apologised after a report into the airing of
They
a
opted for
documentary
a
about the war
conveyancing
in
package
Gaza
through
breached
Purple Bricks.
editorial
That's a
guidelines
legal
on
service
accuracy.
you need to
The
complete a
corporation
house sale.
told Gaza how to
didn't know
survive
pricing wise what was.
It is Bastille Day in France. Let's show you the latest pictures that we have from Paris that have come into us of the fly past. The biggest summer celebration in Paris, of course, a national holiday throughout France. It always takes place on July the 14th, both the anniversary of the storming of the infamous Bastille prison. That was back in 1789. It was a turning point for the success of the French Revolution and the end of absolute rule by monarchs. But there is also a mostly forgotten event, which I've been reading about, which also took place a year later, the Fête Nationale Française, which is a celebration of France's short-lived constitutional monarchy. This also comes as President Macron was there and talking to a lot of people, addressing the troops too, announcing a plan to push forward France's defence spending, pledging to double the military budget
Today,
by
her mum
2027.
spoke about the strength she's
More from
found
France throughout the
since
day.
setting
Stay
up
with us
BB's
here on
High
BBC News.
to help bereaved children.
Phoebe was so full of joy and she had the biggest heart. She was very caring and creative. We want to carry on her light and we want to do that with BB's.
Lauren explained how they came up with the name.
We always associated
Dan Whitworth with that report. Well, we haven't had to go far to get the good weather recently, have we? Is it here to stay, though? Here's Sarah Keith Lucas. Hi there.
Hi, Nina. Well, it depends what you mean by good weather, because not everyone is a fan of the heatwave, are they? We've had the warm, dry weather quite widely across the UK, but things are starting to change. Still a bit of sunshine out there for you. So this is the picture in Anglesey. Beautiful afternoon there, but also in Aberystwyth this is. We've also got some shower cloud looming as well. So yeah, a little bit up and down the weather. Sunshine and scattered showers, and that's going to be the picture as we head through the next few days too. So some welcome to Tasmania as well too. But those temperatures will start to creep up again in the south later in the week.
The picturesque country of Switzerland will
Sarah,
host the
thank
Women's
you.
Euros this summer.
And that's all from
with
today's
31
BBC
matches being
News at
played
One.
across
Enjoy
8
the rest
cities.
of your afternoon.
Can
Bye-bye.
England successfully defend their title, or will there be a new name on the trophy? Join me, James Eagle, for all the stories of the tournament on Sports Day, or you can keep up to date with the latest online. The picturesque country of Switzerland will host the Women's Euros this
For continuing coverage of the migrant crisis, join us live
in
here
Europa
on BBC
angekommen
News.
sind, dann finde ich, haben sie ein Recht darauf, menschlich behandelt zu werden.
He really truly loved this regime and Vladimir Putin. That's why Vladimir Putin hated him so much.
Every time I lost, I just did a deep dive into the reason why we lost.
There are times when I have noted something more emotional in one case than the other, which I think comes from being a woman.
When the big names talk, they talk to us.
Live from London, this is BBC News. The Health Ministry in Gaza says the number of people killed since the war began has passed 58,000. EU ministers meet in Brussels. They're discussing how to respond to a potential trade tariff war with the US. President Trump says he'll send very sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine as President Zelensky meets White House envoy Keith Kellogg in Kyiv. The BBC understands that 4 people were killed in Sunday's small plane crash at London Southend Airport. The airport remains closed today. And the BBC says there was a breach of its editorial policy after it emerged that a documentary about life in Gaza was narrated by the son of a Hamas official. Hello, I'm Lucy Hockings. Welcome to BBC News Now. The death toll in Gaza has now passed 58,000, according to the Health Ministry there. Among the latest deaths, 10 people, including 6 children who were killed while waiting to fill water containers in central Gaza. Let's just take you to Brussels because we've been closely watching reaction to President Trump's 30% tariffs on the imports from the 1st of August on the EU. Hearing from Lars Rasmussen, the Danish Foreign Minister, and Maros Sefcovic, the EU Trade Commissioner as well. Mr. Rasmussen saying that the EU members find Trump's threatened tariffs absolutely unacceptable. There are, of course, many who are saying there should be proportionate countermeasures taken if needed. But let's listen in. Well, Helena Wilkinson is inside the court reporting from there, and I can bring you some news from Helena. The judge has told the jury that he will not be setting a date for sentence today, but will do so at a future date. He has told the jury that they are welcome to come back for that if they wish. And as the jury left the courtroom, she brings us as well the reaction from the two. Constance Martin, when she heard the guilty verdict, sighed. She shook her head while the verdicts were being read out. And Mark Gordon apparently had very little reaction. He is sitting, Helena says, with his eyes closed. His head was resting back against the wall. And then as the jury left the courtroom, Constance Martin was just looking ahead, showing absolutely no reaction at all. We have a live page up and running for you with all the reaction from this retrial on the BBC News website, so do log on and take a look. Constance Martin and Mark Gordon found guilty of gross negligence manslaughter.
Now on BBC News, the latest from New York and around the world. Business Today.
Live from New York at the opening bell, this is Business Today. Wall Street opens lower as investors fret over Donald Trump's latest tariff threats. A tense standoff. The EU warns Trump's 30% tariffs would make transatlantic trade almost impossible as ministers meet in Brussels to discuss their next move. The African nation of Lesotho declares a national state of disaster, buckling under the weight of those tariffs. We'll hear from the boss of one textile exporter about the direct impact on trade. And trouble brewing. We hear from a leading coffee producer who warns about the future of the industry amid rising costs. Welcome to Business Today, live from New York. I'm Michelle Fleury, and it's the start of a new week on Wall Street, and a new threat is on the mind of investors following Donald Trump's pledge to impose 30% tariffs against the European Union and Mexico. All the main indexes have opened slightly lower as markets await to see how both countries might retaliate. The president of Lavazza there speaking to Julia Caesar. And that is all from us. Do stay with us here on BBC News. Thanks for watching.
The picturesque country of Switzerland will host the Women's Euros this summer, with 31 matches being played across 8.
The gang.
The
Join
Travel
me and
Show
Katie
on
Randall
BBC
on
News.
BBC iPlayer.
I will give away, the vast majority of my money. It's my full-time focus for the rest of my life.
Every time I lost, I just did a deep dive into the reason why we lost.
Und wenn Menschen bei uns in Europa angekommen sind, dann finde ich, haben sie ein Recht darauf, menschlich behandelt zu werden.
When the big names talk, they talk to us.
Hello, I'm Matt Graveling from the BBC Sports Centre. Right, let's start with cricket because England are hunting. And in the Tour de France Stage 10, the first mountain stage is underway. The riders are 98 kilometres through with 77 remaining. Britain's Giro d'Italia winner Simon Yates is part of a 16-man breakaway group over 3 minutes ahead of the main peloton. And that's all the sport for now. Back to you, Lucy.
Matt, thank you so much. We're keeping an eye on the cricket as well here in the newsroom. Here in the UK, Constance Martin and Mark Gordon have been found guilty of gross negligence manslaughter over their baby's death. The couple's baby was found dead in a shopping bag in Brighton in 2023 after they spent 2 months on the run. Joe Black reporting there. Good to have you with us today. See you again tomorrow. Christian is here next with Verified Live. Bye-bye.
Hello. Monday has brought us a change in weather type after the
Hello.
hot and
Let's
dry
take a look at the
conditions
weather
that many of
around
us
the
had
world.
much of
First
last
off,
week
it's
and
to
through the
North
weekend
America.
too.